Out asks, are we being taken for a ride?
Running your car could be costing the earth, but is the government's plan to charge us for road use a step too far?
It's really Big Brother gone mad, I think. I do resent to think that somebody's going to be knowing exactly where I'm going all the time. I don't like it at all.
Then there's the speed cameras. Why so many when most crashes are down to drivers just not paying attention?
You'll find on congested motorways, people aren't speeding, they're just driving too close to each other.
Tonight, week in, week out takes to the road.
They need to concentrate more on educating drivers to drive properly rather than this constant speeding thing.
I know Jeremy Clarkson, and this isn't Top Gear. It's week in, week out, and we're on a journey to find out if the Welsh motorist really is being penalised unfairly. I think, like most motorists, I want to be sure that I'm being treated fairly. And that's what this journey is all about. What about those who always seem to duck beneath the radar and get away with it? Road tax, fuel tax, congestion charges, parking fines, speed cameras. Many drivers have had enough. Driving is Bernard Simpson's job. He's a courier for a national company, and we hitched a ride for the day.
I've been doing it a year this week, actually. I was made redundant from the local newspaper after nearly 40 years, and I took up this courier work. Each day, you don't know till you go into work where you're going. You could be going anywhere.
His first job is a pickup from the Heath Hospital in Cardiff. Today he's collecting a medical sample that's got to be taken to a hospital in Oxfordshire. Bernard clocks out about 70,000 miles a year on all kinds of roads.
Right. Well, we're going to Headington in Oxford, so a quick look on the map. We'll keep up here, see where we're going.
As a self-employed driver, Bernard has to pay all his own costs, and at the moment he's just about making money.
Your profit margins have been reduced over the years, yet what you charge your customer hasn't really changed because of market forces and competition. So at the end of the day, it's the haulage company, the private courier, the owner-driver that is bearing the brunt of all these costs. And there's only so much you can take, and in the end you just give up on it. There's a car going nice and quick past us now. I'm doing 70. And the camera's got him as well, probably. Who knows?
One thing we do know is that motoring is probably going to cost all of us a lot more money in the future. Now, the government wants to start charging motorists for using the road, a sort of pay-as-you-go system, if you like. But how is it going to work, and why are they doing it? One word, congestion. Sounds like the perfect solution? Well, not exactly. Just ask this man. Peter Roberts has masterminded what's become the biggest online petition to Downing Street. More than 1.5 million drivers have signed up in protest at the road pricing plans. A PR nightmare for the UK government.
I'm really pleased that there's this many people that feel strongly enough to go out and support a petition. I really do hope that the government are democratic enough to listen and don't just try and rubbish the petition or don't try and undermine it in some way, because it's a genuine grassroots petition. It's what people feel.
Bernard the courier has added his name to the petition too.
I'm the 1,100,071. I did it last night. It's one of these moments where enough is enough. Because I'm on the road every day, at 70,000 miles in a year, and there are people who do more, that's an awful lot of mileage you're doing, and an extra charge on top of your fuel and everything else that you're paying for. And if you can't pass it on to the customer because it will affect your revenue, then it's going to be very difficult to continue in the business.
And Bernard's boss, Andrew Bernard, agrees with him. His company uses about 1,000 owner-drivers. He's worried they'll be priced off the roads by the pay-as-you-drive plans intended to reduce congestion at peak times.
We're concerned because we feel that the market will be hit by this and that it will be very difficult for us to operate within this environment. What we need are some practical steps to improve congestion. What we don't need are big ideas and grandstanding ideas, which might look good from a PR perspective, but which are going to really hurt a lot of businesses.
Congestion's getting worse, but motoring organisations hear daily from drivers who feel they're already being victimised by government policy. Meet Edmund King.
Motorists actually see government looking at road pricing as taxation rather than actually reducing congestion, and I think that's where the government's failed in trying to sell it to the public.
What's your alternative suggestion?
Well, what we found in our surveys is that 9 out of 10 drivers don't actually trust the government to deliver a fair system of road pricing. But 60 or 70% would if there was an independent body that overseed it, that guaranteed where the money would be spent, that actually had a cap on the money. So, you know, road pricing in pure economic terms, it makes sense. Congestion's a massive problem. It's costing the country probably £20 billion a year.
There should be a suitable alternative. In Bristol, we've just passed Bristol now, they have a car sharing scheme where certain lanes are open for cars with more than one person in it. There's got to be sort of small bites, if you like, at correcting or fixing this problem rather than one great big bite that everyone hates. It's just piling on layer and layer and layer of cost. Look at that, there's another one coming now. I'm doing 70, and he's got a car on the back.
Road pricing will be introduced within the next decade after being tried out in certain areas. Some roads could cost more than £1 a mile to use in rush hour. But until there's an alternative to using cars, many feel it's really unfair to charge us for driving on the roads. Janet Jones is a farmer. She lives with her family near Talgarth in Paris, and she would be stuck without her 4x4.
We are about half a mile, three-quarters of a mile down off the main road to the house, down Farm Lane. Everything that we need to do to shop, to the doctors, anything like that, we jump in the car and have to use our own vehicle.
Janet's very worried about road pricing based on what she's heard.
In my mind, it's going to be a complete and utter disaster. I mean, I can't pop up the Farm Lane and jump onto the bus so that I'm saving those costs. I have no alternative. So it's going to be a nightmare, really.
And what about rural congestion? Listen to this. Perfect peace and quiet. Something that might well be in jeopardy if the government's road pricing plans get the go-ahead. Many worry that motorists can start using places like this as cut-throughs to avoid more expensive routes.
The thought of farmers trying to move livestock or just moving their tractors about the place. We already get quite a bit of anger from ordinary motorists who think that we're in the way, but, you know, this is our way of life, this is what we have to do. And more traffic on roads that aren't up to it is really going to be hopeless and dangerous.
Could our country lanes fundamentally change under road pricing?
I think there is a danger that many economists haven't thought about with road pricing, and that is, if it actually is cheaper to travel in rural areas because of tax reductions and less busy roads, then won't some people actually move from towns and cities to the rural areas and therefore travel more? And I don't think anyone's really addressed this problem, which could have quite dire environmental consequences.
Our every motoring move may have to be tracked using satellite technology to work out just how much we'll have to pay. And that's the prime concern of Peter Roberts, the motorist behind the online petition.
Most people don't want their movements tracked by anybody, let alone the government or the private company that would run the scheme. I think that's one really big issue, is the invasion of privacy. It'll completely change everybody's life. I think for a start, some people are feeling strongly enough about it to refuse to have the box. They won't be tracked at any cost, and they're probably prepared to go to prison.
It's taking control of our lives too much, and it could be the thin edge of the wedge. You know, we'll end up with implants in our heads, you know, and they'll know where we are, what we think. No, that's going too far. So we're on this contraflow that's 40. I'm doing 40. There's a certain amount of pressure on me now. The traffic in front has moved away from me. We're in a police speed check area, and I've got a queue of, you know, 20, 30 cars behind me, waiting for me to go faster. Do I go faster, break the law, get a ticket, or do I think, well, I'm doing 40, I'm staying here, that's your problem. And I have to take that attitude. I'm not going to lose my license for 30 people who want to go a bit faster behind me.
It's time to get some answers. So, I'm leaving the car behind and letting the train take the strain. Our destination, the Department for Transport in London. It's convenient, on time, and ridiculously expensive at £150 for a return ticket. The man we're going to see is Transport Minister Dr. Stephen Ladyman. The big question, why a road pricing scheme in the first place?
This is about congestion and nothing else. People have talked about an additional tax on motorists. It's not about an additional tax, it's about a different way of paying to use the roads. So there's been a lot of myths put around. What we haven't done yet, I entirely agree, is take the public with us. The public are not convinced. And that's what's got to be our next step, is to make sure the public understand the facts, the dilemma that we're facing if we don't address it, and take them with us.
So, next question, when are we going to be charged for using the roads?
It's only if the technology demonstrations convince people and the local pilots convince people that we would then go forward to making a decision to introduce a national scheme. So nobody should have the view that we're going to do it tomorrow, because that's not what we're intending to do. Now, how would it work? Well, at this stage we don't know, because we haven't designed it yet. But there's various ways that we can design privacy into a system so that that won't be an issue.
Cardiff may be one of the pilot project areas he's talking about, but it won't happen for 4 years, and even then, road pricing won't automatically apply to the whole of Wales. The Assembly government will have the final say.
I'd really hope the Welsh Assembly turn around and say we're not going to introduce road pricing, these are our roads, and the Welsh people do not want to see road pricing, and therefore we will support the Welsh people. It would be fantastic.
So, what does our Minister for Transport say?
The biggest problem we have with congestion is in a fairly, geographically, a fairly small area. It's in the Newport, Cardiff area, and the southeast valleys, and around the M4. That's where we have the major problem with congestion. So, to deal with that, would we want an all-Wales scheme? I mean, I think the jury is out on that, and personally, it may not be relevant to have an all-Wales scheme.
Ah, this is it. Haemophilia Centre. Oh, stick it over there.
Well over 100 miles later, Bernard makes his first drop of the day near Oxford. He's been on the road for about 3 hours.
We're done.
Bernard is tracked by his control centre.
Other service centre managers who know I'm in the area, that I've dropped off my load, and that I'm available for further work should any come available close to where I am.
Minutes later, he's off again. Now, Bernard's got a clean licence and he keeps to speed limits, but he reckons more should be done to educate bad drivers, and he's not a fan of speed cameras.
I think they're cash cows. There are some cameras that earn millions for council in strategic areas, which are not necessarily accident black spots, they're just a good place to stick a camera. I think speeding is not so much, it's not the big thing about driving, it's bad driving basically. You'll find on congested motorways, people aren't speeding, they're just driving too close to each other. And then when something does happen, like a sudden deceleration or everyone stops, it's the people who are too close to other cars and that cause the problem. Well, touch wood, I've got a clean licence. I think I had some in the years gone by endorsements, but that was when I was in my 20s, which was quite a long time ago.
Stick to the speed limit, of course, and you don't need to worry. But Wales is many drivers' idea of speed camera hell. Twice as many fines are issued pro rata in Wales than in England. Last year, on average, more than 600 drivers were caught here on camera every day. Prominent North Wales Tory Felicity Elphick was one of them. She's been driving since she was 17.
Let's get going.
She does about 30,000 miles a year and has never had an accident.
Well, I genuinely tried to keep within the speed limit. And so consequently, when I was driving in Towyn, I genuinely thought I was doing 37 miles an hour. So I was absolutely gutted when the camera went. And I actually still thought it was a mistake.
She says the speed limit had been changed from 40 miles per hour to 30. It was the fourth time she'd been done in 3 years, and Felicity was banned.
Don't you think if you've been caught 4 times, that's quite careless driving?
Yes, you can argue that as well. But having said that, it is so easy. I would like you to point to me many people who are doing the sort of mileage that I'm doing every year who haven't got at least 3 points on their licence. It's most unusual. You probably get loads of people now saying, but I haven't. Where I was caught driving fast, in inverted commas, were not areas that I considered my speed to have been dangerous in. And quite often I've been in a stream of traffic which were doing a similar speed, so they will have had a good field day on fines that day.
Nobody has to pay for a speed camera fine. Nobody. You just stick to the speed limit, it doesn't cost you a penny. We paint them bright yellow, we put big signs up to tell you where they are. We even publish a list of them on the internet. If you're still getting caught by them, then open your eyes and blame yourself.
After her 4-month ban, Felicity is back in the driving seat. So has she learned to slow down?
It isn't actually always easy to watch your speedometer, watch the side of the road for a police car or a camera, and watch the road to be safe there. And with modern cars, it is very easy, when you're trying to keep to the speed limit, to suddenly realise you're doing faster than you thought you were.
Hi, Kev. Yeah, we're about half an hour away from us. Be there at about 5:15. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bernard's got a detour for another pickup.
Now, I've got a car behind me flashing its lights. I'm doing 70 and I'm in the process of overtaking a lorry. The car has come up right behind me. It's a girl in an Astra, very close. I'll move over when the time is right, but why is she forcing the issue? She's very close. I'll move over now. Off she goes. Oh, it's not a girl, it's a bloke. And you just cruise up to it. Keep your speed down. When you get there, up it goes, and through you go. £10, thank you very much.
Last year, safety cameras in Wales netted £10 million, nearly £1 million of that profit. From April this year, the surplus will go to the Assembly government. So, what will it be spent on?
it'll be very much on the same lines that we do now, working with local authorities to improve, safety management on our local roads. And together with the very considerable amount of money we put into safe routes to schools and a range of other road safety measures.
But not everyone who's caught on camera pays the price. Now, in a system that relies so heavily on speed cameras, is there a danger that the drivers who operate completely out of the system, without insurance, who are unregistered, are simply left to get away with it? Some of the drivers flashed can't even be issued with a speeding fine because they can't be traced.
We have issues with foreign drivers, and on occasions we do find it's impossible to actually trace the driver.
So there's unregistered drivers that are getting away with it?
We have difficulty in tracing the driver, not necessarily because they're unregistered. It may well be that the vehicles have been hired to foreign drivers. It may well be that in terms of hire companies, paperwork has got lost. But there are a whole host of reasons why we don't trace the drivers. That's a very, very small proportion.
And speed cameras are failing to catch some of the worst drivers of all.
The problem with speed cameras is they can only do one thing. They can only clock the motorist a few miles an hour above the limit. They don't deter drink drivers, drug drivers, dangerous drivers, careless drivers, uninsured drivers.
As the number of speed cameras has increased, there's been an 11% drop in the number of traffic police. So unless the driver's breaking the speed limit, they could continue on their way undetected. Drivers like this one, who stopped using his mobile phone long enough to spot us. And our cameras also caught this classic. Watch the blue car, right in front of the no U-turn sign. There he goes, right past an unseen speed camera.
I have made it publicly known that I would like to see a lot more road policing. And some local constabularies are doing a very, very good job, and others, I'm not sure they are doing such a good job. But it is, in the end, a matter for the local police authority and the chief constable to decide how their resources are deployed.
Bernard's reached Usk.
I think this is it.
It's his second pickup of the day.
Okay, good night.
He's got a parcel to take back to the depot for an overnight lorry. Speed is, of course, a very emotive issue. But you might be surprised to find out, as I was, that breaking the speed limit is only a factor in 5% of all accidents. A lot more crashes involve inappropriate speed, not taking account of bad weather like this, for example. In 17% of fatal accidents, the driver's going too fast for the conditions, but below the speed limit, and it's driver inattention that's responsible for more road crashes than anything else. Rainer Walters pays the price for driver inattention every day of her life. 3 years ago, her 5-year-old son, Stefan, was killed in a car crash near their home in Carmarthenshire. The rest of the family was badly hurt too.
We came to traffic lights, and the traffic lights were on red. There was a lorry directly in front of us, so we pulled up behind the lorry, and we started chatting, Bev and myself. And the next thing we know is we came around. I wasn't aware of what happened at first, but we later found out that a coach had rammed into us from behind. The driver wasn't concentrating, obviously, on the road, and he drove straight into us without even trying to stop. Stefan was 5 years old, and he was ripped from us. And, you know, I mean, we nearly lost our eldest daughter, Laurie, as well.
She was severely injured in the crash. We were all severely injured. We never thought it would happen to us. We really didn't, but it has. And it's through no fault of our own, and it's something that we have to deal with. And it's not easy, and will never be the same again.
The coach driver was given a 3-year jail sentence for causing death by dangerous driving. He was banned from going behind the wheel for 5 years.
I think there has been an overemphasis on speed in the safety debate. You know, there's no doubt speed's very important, and, you know, the whole physics of a car moving, if it's moving faster, it will cause more damage. But there are a lot of other reasons why accidents are happening, and a lot of it is bad driving. 32% of factors are things like fail to look, and this is drivers not looking at a junction, just pulling out. So we'd rather see a broader campaign that looks at improving driving, things like tailgating, lane discipline, driving in different weather conditions, what to do at roundabouts. These are all things that motorists get wrong on a daily basis, and these are all things that cause accidents.
But whatever else we do to improve our driving, speed cameras are here to stay, and many are adamant they're a key weapon in the battle for road safety.
There's been a 15% reduction in the number of offenders in the last 2 years, and that's because people's attitudes are changing. We know that you can't change drivers' behaviour overnight. It's a long process, and this partnership is achieving more than any other partnership in the country. Fatalities have remained a fairly static figure.
The latest annual figures show 180 people died on Welsh roads, roughly the same as before speed cameras were introduced. After 2 jobs and more than 8 hours in his van, Bernard Simpson is finally on the homeward stretch.
Just here. I'll just leave it there. And we're home. 280 miles. Of which I was paid for half of it. Half of that mileage I paid for myself.
Traffic jams are a regular feature of Bernard's day, but he simply can't afford to pay for a scheme that might ease congestion. He says his days as a courier are numbered.
There'll be a time when it's just not worth doing it. And he'll just throw in the towel and start stacking shelves in Tesco. That's what I do. Not that far off it as we speak.
Our journey's at an end too. So what have we found out? Is the British motorist being taken for a ride?
It is true that you, the motorist, pays a great deal of money that goes into the national exchequer, and it pays for schools and hospitals as well as for transport systems. And if we weren't raising it through road users, it would have to be raised through income tax or through other taxes.
Responsible motorists pay a lot towards our country, and it's not fair the system is letting the roads off the hook. As for congestion, don't we all need to take responsibility? Otherwise, it really could be the end of the road. Next week, we examine why Welsh hospices have to rely so much on charity to provide vital help for the dying.
And that's at the same time next Tuesday night, 10